Hi friends, welcome to this latest episode of the Nationalist View. And today we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Zahack Tanvir. Zahack Saab, thank you so much for joining the show.
Namaskar.
Zahack Tanvir Saab, I'll just give a brief introduction and I'll be giving a detailed bio in the description box of this video. And you can go through that. I'll also be sharing links of some of his works. Mr. Zahack Tanvir is a geopolitics expert. He's also the founder editor of the Milli Chronicle, a very prestigious publication and a digital platform from London. And he has spent considerable time in West Asia also. So we are going to talk about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to UAE recently, though it was for a few hours. But given the situation, the visit holds quite significance, especially in context of the ongoing situation in West Asia. Zak Sab, my first question is, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent visit to the UAE, United Arab Emirates, has come at a time of deep geopolitical, flux in West Asia. So, how should we interpret this visit within the broader framework of India's evolving Gulf strategy and its aspiration to become a leading global power?
Thank you so much, Anandji. I really appreciate you and I appreciate your channel as well. UAE and India has been partners for almost like more than 7 decades. Okay. But if you see the UAE and India relationship, it's almost like two layer. The first layer has been only transactional layer. And this was pre 2015. And it was all about oil. It was about passports, and it was all about remittances. Indian labor going to UAE, establishing businesses, and sending back the money. So this was the norm before 2015. But after 2015, when PM Modi he became the prime minister, so the dynamics changed. He started to make the partners in the Middle East, especially UAE and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain as well. And the connection with the UAE and Bahrain has been almost like at two levels. The first one is the civilizational level. And you see the Dilmun civilization and the Indus Valley civilization, 5,000-year-old civilization connection between UAE, Bahrain, and India. But the second level connection is the tactical level connection. So 40% of oil comes from, LPG comes from UAE. And cumulative investments of UAE has been like 22 billion. An additional 5 billion has been promised by the UAE government. So these are not just MOUs like, how the countries have been doing that to Pakistan, like the promising the funds or promising whatever they want to. But at the end, you see that nothing comes into picture. But when it comes to UAE and India relationship, the $5 billion investment, what the UAE has promised, it has to go to the banks, RBL, and other banks in India. And at a time when the world is stuck up with the Strait of Hormuz and Iran has been weaponizing the Strait of Hormuz and blackmailing the world using the Strait of Hormuz. So India wants a partner, a secondary partner. Like, for example, if you go to a doctor, so obviously if you are not satisfied with his opinion, you want a second opinion, right? So India also needs a partner without relying on one, point, and Iran is using that as a choke point. So India wants a secondary partner, and even UAE, after exiting OPEC, wants relationship with India to be good because UAE wants to use India's port of Gujarat, that is Vadinath, Vadinath port, for as an alternate route to Strait of Hormuz. The Habshan Fujairah port of UAE, using the Omani Sea route and coming to the Gujarat. So this is the alternate route to Strait of Hormuz, like bypassing the Strait of Hormuz. So it will not 100% bypass Strait of Hormuz, and it will not replace the Strait of Hormuz, but India and UAE will definitely have a second route of exchanging the energy supplies. So this is what PM Modi has been doing. And I've been following the news and I've been watching it. What I see is that one of the most underreported event is about the Vadinath port of Gujarat. So I think the relationship between UAE and India has to be hailed. And we also see that a lot of Emiratis have been praising it and appreciating the connection between India and UAE. And you see, back in January, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, he came to India like for a short duration. And coincidentally, I was in Delhi on the same day, and I was coming from the airport and I saw, the pictures of Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan on the roads of New Delhi. So that the way New Delhi has always welcomed Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and tries to maintain the connection as if both are brothers. So this is something which is really, happening in the West Asia and India.
So, Zak Sab, there is we know, that Saudi Arabia and UAE, so, both of them don't, kind of gel with each other. They have a constraint, a strained relationship. And UAE, as you rightly mentioned, that it has got out of OPEC also. Now, Saudi Arabia is getting closer to, seems to be forming basically a part of a kind of a new alliance, which is Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Pakistan, and especially Saudi Arabia's proximity with Pakistan because they signed a defense pact also with Pakistan. With Pakistan, talked though it's overhyped, I think, but still. So, and India also, how India is going to balance its relationship, growing proximity with UAE and while maintaining, good relationship with Saudi Arabia also. How do you see this panning out?
Yeah, India doesn't take sides. That's India's non-alignment policy since 1947. But at the same time, now India does the multi-alignment and strategic alignment. And the good thing about India is that India doesn't pick up bones for someone else. Like India doesn't fight for someone else. For example, when India hosted Iran's Foreign Minister Arakshi in New Delhi, the same morning, PM Modi flew to UAE. He spoke about reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. He emphasized on the point that reopening of the Strait of Hormuz is important. But at the same time, you see, PM Modi did not mention the name of Iran, though he was talking in a country which was the victim of the Iranian aggression. And you see, India has also been balancing relationship with Iran as well at the same time. So India doesn't take sides. So when it comes to Saudi and UAE, obviously we see that in the recent times, whether it's about Yemen, whether it's about Sudan, whether it's about Ethiopia and Eritrea, you see that the two camps are, one camp is Saudi and the second camp is UAE, and they have been at the loggerheads with each other in Saudi Arabia and UAE. But at the same time, you see Saudi Arabia tries to get a nuclear partner like Pakistan towards itself, so that in the times of trouble or crisis, Pakistan can take care of the Saudi security arrangements. And this has been the oldest one. Like if you go back to 1980s, when the Kaaba attack took place, and even training the Saudi military, the Pakistan military was involved in it. But that was not the other way around. Like, for example, when Afghanistan or Pakistan were fighting, Saudi Arabia did not come with the boots in Pakistan to defend Pakistan. So it doesn't happen the other way. So, anyways, in short, what I'm trying to say is that India tries to maintain relationship with both the countries because the engagement with India is not with the military strings attached. India doesn't have the military strings attached to it. And at the same time, you see, India doesn't want to call itself as the ally. I mean, you never hear the word as ally. Like, for example, India is part of I2U2, India, Israel, UAE, and United States. India also aligns with the Western interest. India also aligns with the Russian interest. India also aligns with the Iranians and also with the Israelis. But you never hear a word like Israeli ally or American ally or the Russian ally or the Saudi Arabian ally, Arab ally. India is a strategic partner. It's not an ally of any country. So this is how India balances the relationship with every country.
Let's talk a little bit about, the larger Gulf region. The Gulf is now increasingly kind of basically, witnessing a strategic competition involving United States, China, Russia, Iran, Israel, Turkey, as well as, regional powers such as, Saudi Arabia also. So in this
Mm,
complex environment, how do you have mentioned earlier, that India is doing, kind of a multilateral alignment with or engagement, and it's more or less basically not in anybody's camp. So how do you see in India's foreign policy moving ahead in terms of balancing uh, with regional partnerships, while protecting its own interest also, because we get most of the oil, a significant part of oil from Gulf. And I just want to add another small question that earlier, the India's engagement with Gulf was largely kind of centered on oil imports and the Indian diaspora. But today, however, the defense cooperation, maritime security, intelligence sharing, technology partnerships, infrastructure investment, all these things have also, gone up. So, do you see India's paradigm shift in India's foreign policy vis-a-vis Gulf?
Yeah, definitely. See, India continues to import energy from Russia, this, and does not join the Western sanctions. India does not join the Western sanctions against Russia. And at the same time, it signals that proxy support for Hormuz disruption is unacceptable. And you see, when it comes to China, India does not confront in the Gulf. It competes through IMEC connectivity, like it has BRICS and the CPEC. So India has its own alternative route, but it does not fight China directly. And at the same time, you see India has also been a part of the Quad membership, but it refuses to label itself as an ally, as I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago. And when it comes to Iran, you see in India stands with Iran, but at the same time, it says that opening of the Hormuz is the priority in UAE. So what I see is India's goal is not to choose the sides. It is to ensure that no single power, whether it is Washington, whether it is Moscow, whether it is Beijing, whether it is Tehran. So India makes sure that nobody takes Indian interests as hostage. This is India's priority. So this is very clear. It's not ambiguous. Nobody can, anybody can make it out. Like India makes sure that no country takes Indian interest as the hostage.
So, let's talk a little bit about the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, IMEC, which
Hmm.
the UAE is also expected to play a pivotal role. And how do you see? Because there was in G20 when India was heading it, so it was announced, and then I immediately after that, the Hamas offensive took place in Israel. So in October 23. So and since then, it seemed, that it has got derailed. So in fact, it couldn't, take off. So
Mm.
what is the importance of this India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, and can this corridor emerge as a credible geopolitical and economic counterweight to China's Belt and Road Initiative?
Yeah, that's quite an interesting question. But to be very honest, very logical, very straightforward, I'll speak to you. BRI, which is the Chinese Belt Road Initiative, it's almost like 10 years old. So it is in action. And $1 trillion, has been invested on that. But when it comes to IMEC, IMEC is ambitious. IMEC is a promising project. And you see it's mostly on the papers. MOUs have been signed. The NSAs have met, like for example, UAE NSA, American MSA, and NSA and the Indian NSA Ajit Doval. They met. They have been talking about it. And in G20, yes, it was talked about. And after the G20, I think the G20 was in September, and the October 7th happened. And exactly after October 7th, by November, I think Joe Biden was the president then. He said the October 7th attack was carried out to undermine the IMEC project. This is what he mentioned. And this is what almost all of the strategic advisors and strategic consultants were predicting, that the October 7th was fundamentally carried out to undermine this project because Israel was one of the part of it. So it was starting all the way from Mumbai port, then Jabal Ali of UAE, and then all the way to Tabuk of Saudi Arabia, then from Jordan to Israel, and then from Israel to Europe. And one of the key stakeholders of IMEC was Adani. Adani Group, because he owns the Haifa port right now. So he was also part of it. And Indian Railways was to get a huge project because that was all about the railways, laying the railway lines all the way in the Middle East. So uh, if you compare BRI has been old, has been functioning, and has been improving. But when it comes to IMEC is almost on the papers. But we wish this happens. The positive point of IMEC is that USA and Europe supports IMEC. BRI does not have that support of the European countries and the Americans. And the Emiratis also support, the Arabs also support IMEC. So that's something which gives India an additional benefit.
So, my last question is that how do you see this, though, nobody can predict and it's pretty unpredictable, but how do you see this Iran for conflict, going ahead? Do you see a possibility of, de-escalation or what you call basically end of the war, or is it just going to end up like, what is happening between Russia and Ukraine for the last 4 years?
See, when this war started, most of the war experts, they predicted that the war would go like what happened in June last year. Like US did some attacks, obliterated the nuclear facilities of Iran, and it was all gone, done and dusted. Then you see when Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah was killed, Iran was threatening, but nothing substantial came out of that. But finally, when this war started, the Khamenei was killed, and everybody was expecting that the same thing would happen. And last like 2 weeks ago, I was part of a defense conclave, and I happened to hear Ram Madhav, and the same question was asked to him, like, what is the prediction of Indian experts on this war? And he said that when this started, we were expecting that this would end in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and that's how we planned the energy reserves in India. But now it has gone out of the hand. So wars usually happen this way. Like nobody can predict what would happen. When the Arab Spring started in 2012 in Syria, I mean, everybody was expecting that Bashar al-Assad would leave, Free Syrian Army would win, and then the Sunnis would gain power in Syria. But that didn't happen. It took almost 12 years. So wars are unpredictable. So when this started, everybody was predicting like 15 days or 20 days. But now it's like more than 2 months, 3 months now. So we cannot say right now what is going to happen, but I think Saudi Arabia will play a major role in the de-escalation. The reason why Saudi Arabia is silent right now and everybody is talking about it and says that it's like an ostrich, fixing its head inside the sand and not seeing what's happening around. And everybody's criticizing Saudi Arabia. But what I see is right now because of Hajj, the Hajj is going out right now, and Saudi Arabia doesn't want to engage with any kind of adventure because of the international pilgrims visiting the country. And it also has to do with the revenue, Hajj revenue. So that is one of the major reasons why things are dormant right now. But I think going forward, Saudi Arabia will also play a major role in de-escalation because that's also hitting the Saudi oil industry.
So thank you, Zak Sab, for taking time out from your busy schedule on a very short notice. And we hope to host you back soon again. And thank you, viewers, for watching. We'll be back soon again with another conversation. Thank you, Zak Sab.
Thank you so much.